Mm, all right. Well, is everybody ready to kick this off then? In that case, welcome back to another episode of Interviewing Humanity. I'm your host, as usual, Sludge Knuckle, and tonight we're not just lifting the hood, we're tearing apart the engine of race itself. In our last episode, we uncovered the invention of whiteness, a rigged loyalty program for poor Europeans created to uphold the elite, but the lie didn't just stay whispered in colonial taverns, it evolved. Tonight, we're going to confront the modern machinery of race, the sleek, updated systems that keep ancient divisions alive, with newer paint jobs and subtler levers. We're going to expose how race continues to be engineered and maintained across policing, healthcare, housing, media, and the legal system. These institutions aren't broken, they're doing exactly what they were designed to do. But if we can see the gears moving, maybe we can start jamming them up. So, buckle up, grab a crowbar if you've got one, and let's crack this thing open, shall we? So, the first part we're going to get into is race and policing. And you hear the term protect and serve all the time. And I say, protect and serve who? The first organized policing in America wasn't about keeping peace. It was about maintaining control over enslaved populations. Slave patrols were legally sanctioned terror squads, hitting down black people who dared to escape bondage, as documented by Sally E. Hayden in Slave Patrols, Law and Violence in Virginia and the Carolinas. This history isn't a footnote. It's a blueprint for the entire system. In today's cities, heavy police neighborhoods are often the least protected from actual harm. Property crimes get more attention than missing people. Police respond faster to threats against wealth than to the cries of help from marginalized communities, and public safety is really just kind of public management. When police officers harm or unalive, they are shielded by, quote, qualified immunity, which is a legal doctrine established by Pearson v. Ray in 1967, expanded in Harlow versus Fitzgerald in 1982, that says unless there's an almost identical previous case, they can't be sued. It's a legal cheat code that keeps the machinery oiled. So my first question, I'm going to throw this up to Guillotine. What were you taught about policing or about police growing up?
That they were your friend, that they were your savior, and that they are the fantasy white knight in shining armor. When in reality, they're more like the mafia is better than the police.
I mean, yeah. At least they took care of communities. Thank you very much. Make it great. What were you taught about police growing up?
Well, I was taught that because where I grew up, it was a lot of diverse police that anybody could be a police and anybody could do good. And some people, as a police officer or in government officials, will do wrong. And we were taught that sometimes we have to speak out, and all the times other times we can't speak out.
Okay. Thank you very much, bud. Demon King, what were you taught about police growing up?
Don't trust them. They're not all good, and they're not all there to help.
You come from Shiner territory, don't you?
Yes. And some of them are only out for themselves. They don't care about taking care of people. Actually had one tell me that he doesn't care about the people. All he cares about is the badge and the money and the power that it gives him. So, look out for your own self. Don't worry about them, because they'll. If you were lying in the street bleeding, and some other wealthy person was 2 feet down the road right next to you blind bleeding, they'd step over you to get to the wealthy person.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. Thank you very much for that. Dankelberg, what were you taught about police growing up?
So obviously school teaches you that they're the saviors and they're trustworthy. But at home, I was taught that they are not trustworthy and to only call them if there is a unalived person or a missing child.
Yep. Yep, absolutely. And Loon, what were you taught about police growing up?
I was always told that if I got into trouble, I should call my parents before I called the police or anybody else, just to make sure that that was the right thing to do if it needed to be done at all.
Fantastic. Thank you very much. So this next part, we'll get into race and healthcare. But before we get there, I want to ask another question about this. So, why do you think that accountability is so rare for officers? And we're going to go to guillotine for that.
Because no one has really checked them for the last, I want to say, at least 15 years. No one's really stopped them and made sure. I don't know how to explain it. I guess, like, no one. There was a problem, but they failed to recognize it as a problem. So it started to manifest itself, and it started to grow like a cancerous growth, practically. And now it's not even the most powerful of therapy can save us without violence.
Thank you very much. Make it great. Why do you think accountability is so rare for officers?
Because I feel like there's a lot of authority and miscommunication and trust that's broken. When they break that trust, they're afraid for the repercussions from the media, family, the job, and I just think it's more of a fear and power thing.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you very much. Demon King, why do you think there's so little accountability for officers?
Honestly, and I don't know if many of y'all know this, but I'm a big comic book movie nerd. And the movie, I don't know if any of y'all have ever seen the movie The Watchmen. Has anybody ever seen it?
Yes.
Okay, well, one of the taglines is "Who watches the Watchmen," and that's kind of how I feel about the police state. Who polices the police? If nobody's
Yeah.
out there policing the police, then they have basic pretty much impunity to do anything they want. If nobody's checking them on what they're doing, then they can do what they want. So yeah, it's like who polices the police when they're just out there doing what they want to, you know?
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you very much. Guillotine. Oh wait, no, sorry. Dinkelberg. Why do you think the accountability is so rare for officers?
I'm gonna say an insatiable thirst for power from the above, as well as lack of punishment for those who are breaking the law.
Yeah. Thank you very much. Hey Ari, long time no see.
Hey, that was actually an accident, but hi. I was just gonna hang
Hi.
down and listen and send likes, but here I am.
Would you like to answer a question?
What was the question?
Why do you think accountability is so rare for officers?
Why is accountability so rare for officers? Because they're not held to it. Because the culture around policing, I mean, I've known and met a lot of police officers and the community I grew up in, and I don't know, there was a lot of really unhealthy pride around it and almost like this sense of entitlement, like part of the gig was different rules for you. Um, yeah, in
Fantastic.
short.
That is a great answer. So, one more person, Loon. Why do you think accountability is so rare for officers?
Because it's a benefit to the system. I mean, the more people are afraid of the police, the more people are willing to fall in line so they don't have to risk a run in with the police. There's a reason certain groups of people are more scared to call the police than others.
Valid. That's a valid point. Thank you very much. Ooh, got another guest. Come on up, Krista.
Are you Demon King's friend?
Who?
Demon King?
Yeah.
Hello.
Yeah,
I'm
how's it
from
going?
earlier.
Welcome in. Yeah, I remember. So I got a question for you since you just popped in right here at the question. Why do you think there's
Yeah.
so little accountability for officers?
Oh God. I don't. Fuck. I'm half and half on it. Honestly, Okay, ask me the question again, real quick, please, so I
Why do you
can.
think that accountability is so rare for officers?
Because from personal experience, they get away with a lot of shit that they really shouldn't, but there are others that actually do their job. So it's really half and half. Me personally, uh, I had to deal with a dickhead cop because he had that power in his head. It was just sickening how much power he truly thought he had. He ended up getting fired because he did his job completely wrong. And then there's other cops that actually, take their job serious, but not to the point where it's like, oh, I'm going to chase you or I'm going to arrest you just because. But like I said, it's half and half for me because I've dealt with the cops that should not be taken into accountability, and then I've met other cops that, opposite of. It's
Okay. Okay. Well, thank you for your answer.
yeah.
So, this next part I want to get into is about race and healthcare. So, from the forced sterilizations of Indigenous women, as reported by Jane Lawrence in the Indian Health Service and the Sterilization of Native American Women in 2000, to the Tuskegee syphilis studies reported by the Center for Disease Control and Prevention, marginalized bodies have been treated as disposable in the name of progress. Medical racism wasn't an accident, it was an actual policy. Studies show that Black patients routinely received less pain medication than white patients, and are underdiagnosed.
I'm
And
sorry.
are dismissed.
I'm sorry.
Go
I
ahead.
don't mean to interrupt. I'm sorry. What you just said about the Black people not getting medical, that is actually true because I did get in trouble. I got a DWVI. I was not drinking and driving, but I had one beer about an hour and a half prior to when I started driving because that is supposed to be like, the typical limit before you start driving. And I did get locked up for 9 hours with a girl who was mixed, more black than she was white, but she was still mixed. And she was treated like shit. She was completely ignored. She, like, because I personally, I'm half Portuguese, half Irish, but I am white. Like, full white. I'm a pale ass bitch. But she was ignored. Like, completely ignored. If she needed a pad, they would look at her with disgust. And then they look at me with, like, oh, were you the one who asked that? And I'm just like, don't look at me. Like, I haven't spoken to any of you since I've been put in here because I'm just trying to, from your terms, sober up to get out. But yeah, she was completely ignored. But continue.
Thank you.
I'm sorry.
You're good. Thank you for sharing that. So, as I was saying, marginalized bodies have been treated as disposable in the name of progress. Studies show that Black patients routinely receive less pain medication.
I know.
Hey, buddy. It's loud. Algorithms built into hospital systems estimate lower lung function and kidney strength for Black patients, as reported by Darshali A. Vyas in Hidden in Plain Sight, which is in the New England Journal of Medicine in 2020. And that itself is science weaponized. So health insurance is tied to employment as well. Employment is tied to systemic bias, and surprise, communities of color are most often uninsured or underinsured. When healthcare becomes a luxury, survival becomes a political aspect. So have you ever felt dismissed or unheard in a healthcare setting? And we'll start with Seeds on this one.
Hello, forgive my outside noise. I'm outside. I just got off work. Yeah, every time I've ever interacted with the medical field at all, including them kidnapping my brother, And because my brother is black, there is racism, but not against him. I know for a fact that his roommate forced one of his nurses to admit that she's never brushed his teeth, and she's the opening morning breakfast, morning time nurse. So it literally is just egregious, and it's every single time, and it's every single aspect of the medical field. And the way they treat my brother, I can specifically tell the way 82% of them treat my brother is without a shred of fucking care or dignity. But I'm gonna treat them the same, so it doesn't bother me so much in that aspect.
Hurts my heart every time I hear it, man. What about you, Ari? Have you ever felt dismissed or unheard in a healthcare setting?
I mean, definitely not as a result of racism, probably quite the opposite. But as a, I suppose, femme-coded person being seen by male doctors, I can say that I have experienced that, but definitely, I think I probably receive, I probably do experience a lot of privilege when I do seek medical help, which probably outweighs the other. So I don't really have much to add there.
Okay. Thank you for telling us your part. Guillotine. Have you ever felt dismissed or unheard in a healthcare setting?
Not really in in the sense of like racial, the unbiased and or anything, but just more of, I don't know, just I guess over here and how they are more leaning one way than the other. Being trans kind of throws a wrench into things too.
Mm-hmm. Thank you for sharing. Krista, have you ever felt dismissed or unheard in a healthcare setting? Krista, there you go.
Yep. The only time I ever did physically or personally was when I had a male doctor. But I will say, not medically, but not for myself, but I had my best friend. Sorry if I continue on longer than most other people. I remember not recently, but like about a year ago, I want to say like a year and a half ago, me and my best friend, she's mixed. And she has her 2 daughters, and I have my daughter. Obviously, I'm white. She's mixed. Her 2 daughters are, black. And no, I'm not saying that as a racial thing. I love them to death. They're my fucking nieces. Absolutely adore those little assholes. And yes, they are dickheads. But when we got pulled over, I almost got T-boned by an older couple. And I know this isn't like medical and what you're talking about, but yes, gynecologist. Sorry, I only do females. But we almost got T-boned by an older couple, and because I had my mixed best friend next to me in the passenger seat and the children in the back seat. When we got pulled over, the cops decided that they wanted to put their hands on their hip where their gun were by standing next to my nieces who were mixed. So if that doesn't say anything about racial stereotype, I don't know what does, because they are still children. My one niece, she was maybe a year at this age, and then my other niece was maybe 3, almost 4. And they just stood next to the window, next to these children, because they were mixed or black in these cops' eyes. And they had their hand on their gun, on their hip. But they wanted to talk to me, but nobody else. Not, obviously the children, because they're too young. But yes, racially, for myself, no, I've never dealt with it, but I have personally seen it with people that I am friends with or that I claim is my family, because they are my family. But I have seen it personally, that they are treated way, differently than I have ever been treated in my entire life.
Hey, real
Thank you very
quick,
much for sharing.
please, if we could use a different word for that, we do have to try and put F1 in the chat if we're going to use hot button words, but that's not a TikTok safe word.
What wasn't? Just so I know. I'm sorry.
Pew pew.
Oh, okay. I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
But I
That
just
was
want
to
to let
say
you
they
know.
had their hands on their hip in their like belt section. But no, thank you for letting me know because I don't go. I don't know what the words that they like to block off anymore on here.
It's okay. Or you could say Blicky, like Naomi said.
The bubble
And
gum.
thank you very much for sharing.
Yeah.
Demon King, you might have an interesting perspective. Have you ever felt dismissed or unheard in a healthcare setting?
Oh yeah, I have. It's crazy. Like I told you earlier, being mixed like I am. It's kind of funny though because when you walk into a hospital and everybody sees, oh, here comes this white guy, that just looks normal, white, and they hear me talk or they see me with some of my relatives, my cousins, my people that are actually African American, and they hear me calling them cousin or uncle or aunt or something like that, and they look at me funny, and it's like the whole vibe changes. They're like, "Oh, you have mixed," and I'm like, "Yeah, I'm born with it." So, what's the big deal? Because it's never been a big deal to me.
Yeah.
But most people still, and I don't know why, see it as kind of a big deal. But you can see them go from being, oh yeah, hey, how you doing? Welcome into the hospital, and they find out that you have some different flavor of blood in your system. They want to treat you like a butthead. Oh, we'll just go ahead and get them out of here. Whereas there have been certain times when I've been hurt really bad that it was do an X-ray on them, send them to the waiting room. X-ray comes out, oh, nothing's broke. You can go home.
Mm-hmm.
And other times I've been in there with 130-degree fevers and other things. Well, not 130. I'm just exaggerating a little bit, but you get the point.
Yeah.
You go in and you feel like you've been hit by a bus and everything, and they think you're white and you don't tell them anything, and they keep you in the hospital for 4 to 5 hours. So yeah, it's been crazy, being able to walk in both worlds and see what happens to people of different colors, and to live with them and to see them get treated separately as they do, and it sucks because it shouldn't be like that.
Yeah, absolutely. And thank you for sharing, bud. Dinkelberg, you ever felt dismissed or unheard or in a healthcare setting?
Oh goodness, yes. Not because of race, but because I'm a woman.
Okay. Do you want to share an example, or do you want me to move on to Lynn?
I don't want to disclose like a bunch of my medical information, but okay, so this is the last encounter that I had with a doctor. I went to go get tested for diabetes. Now, mind you, I was 27 at this point in time. Asked to be tested for diabetes, and she told me that I wasn't old enough to be diabetic, and she wouldn't test me.
What? 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 What?
I swear. I swear.
What? What?
They actually told you wasn't old enough?
Yeah, she said you're too young to have diabetes. I said, well, my dad was diabetic and doesn't isn't there like pediatric diabetes? Like, don't children get
Yeah.
diabetes? Yeah, they ended up not testing me. I had to go to a different doctor to get tested for that.
That was almost like my doctor when right after I had my daughter, because I had an emergency C-section. She straight up looks at me and goes, "Well, you already had a baby," because I had to get back on birth control for my period cramps, which only women would, obviously understand that. But she straight up looked at me and goes, "You look fine. You obviously had a baby." And I looked at her. I said, "Really? No shit. You think I wouldn't know that I just had I had a kid? Not that, like 8 layers of skin or whatnot was just sliced through me for an emergency C-section. But yeah, no, you're the pro. You know what is good for my body because
Yeah.
I'm the one that just had the kid. But yeah, you know better.
Yep. Love that. Love that. And Loon, have you ever felt dismissed or unheard in a healthcare setting?
Okay, so I'm gonna give the more PG story on this one, but okay, so I right now I think am the heaviest I've been, and I'm probably not over like 200. I would probably say like 190. But a couple of years ago, and I was walking all the time because I was homeless. I went to the doctor, and I had gone for like I don't remember. I think I was feeling sick, and I needed an update on my meds. But I went there, and she diagnosed me with obesity and gave me a diet plan in my leaving notes.
Fantastic. And thank you very much for sharing. So I'll take this back down to Seeds. What would real health justice look like for you? Seeds? Seeds. I'll hop over to him for a moment. Ari, what would real health justice look like to you?
I mean, speaking as a white person, I don't feel like, you know, I'm necessarily the voice to speak too much on that. I think just from my own experiences and from my experiences in the field that I work in, I think having empathy and curiosity above like authority and entitlement, like I think a lot of my experiences, I can only speak to my experiences working with male doctors, particularly around certain health issues. Um, I think there's a lot of showing up with kind of that higher authority of expertise and less questions, less listening. Um, there's often like a lacking in cultural competence and transnational competence. So, you know, the whole white coat thing of just overlooking the number of intersecting factors that could be affecting someone's experience with their medical condition. How do they perceive it? How does their family perceive it? And not just jumping straight to like the Western model of I'm the authority, I have the power to authorize the procedures and medications. It's really listening to patients and seeing all patients as equally deserving and worthy of like the treatment that they need and the humanity that that requires.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And thank you for bringing up that point. Guillotine. What would real health justice look like for you?
If everyone got the same amount of treatment, no matter the race, creed, gender, orientation, or any other aspect that could differentiate whether or not someone gets or doesn't get healthcare.
Thank you very much. Thank you for that point. Make it great. What would real health justice look like for you?
I'll say everybody having equal care, no matter what age, what religion, what creed, no matter what who you are, getting the same care as the other person gets. Because of all my fairness, I never really deal with health just injustice. Because I'll say I'm pretty young, but I am 18. For for a while, I did go to the hospital once. Um, for injury I had, and I where I'm coming from, where my like state is very diverse, so everybody gets their equal health care sometimes, and sometimes not. But I'll say just everybody having getting their own needs cared for, no matter what you are.
Okay. Thank you very much for that. Demon King, what would real health justice look like for you?
I think it would be healthcare for everybody, all across the board. Everybody receives the same level of care. Everybody gets the same treatment. Now, like if I was to go in and be told I had COVID or something, and them to give me a treatment, then the next person comes in that says is African American, and they find out they have the vid, and they try to give them a different treatment. It would be like somebody would step in and go, hey, no, 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 we're giving him the same treatment we gave this guy over here because it works the same. Basically, it's just equality and equal treatment and equal care for everybody.
Thank you very much. Dinkelberg, what would real health justice look like for you?
I'm gonna kind of tack on to both what Guillotine, Dima King, and Make Today Great as well. Available across the board, no discrimination for anything, but also not be. Sorry, my brain's it's been a long day. It not completely break the bank. You know what I mean? It be financially available for everybody as well.
Okay. Thank you very much. Loon, and then I'll go to Seeds after Loon. Loon, what would real health justice look like to you?
Honestly, accurate, reliable, unbiased, accessible, free healthcare for everyone.
Thank you very much. Seeds, what would real health justice look like to you?
It would look like humanity. Like it would be vibrant and holistic and natural. It would be inclusive of the environment, not just inclusive, with diversity. And it would be based on consent, and it wouldn't be based on capitalism. So they wouldn't lock people in treatment homes in order to siphon money off of them and give them unnecessary treatments. And so, just in this context, it probably would look like my brother being home instead of in a fucking facility. So I'm gonna drop right on time. I'm gonna drop because this isn't a good conversation.
Okay. I love you, man. Be safe, okay? So let's move on to race and housing, shall we? So the federal government drew maps in the 1930s marking black and immigrant neighborhoods as risky investments, cutting them off from loans, insurance, and home ownerships, which was documented by the Mapping Inequality Project from the University of Richmond. Wealth wasn't just stolen, it was barricaded. And fast forward to urban renewal, which displaces the same communities once corralled in ghettos. Now there's new cafes, new condos, same old eviction notices, but gentrification. And black and indigenous peoples are grossly overrepresented. The direct legacy of discriminatory housing policy and economic exclusion. The blame is placed on individual choices, not structural factors. So my question for the panel, the first question, have you ever lived in a redlined or underfunded community? And we're going to start off with Loon on this one.
Sorry, one more time?
Have you ever lived in a redlined or underfunded community?
Not when I was old enough to remember. I did for a little bit when I was a kid, but I don't really remember living there.
Okay. What about you, Dinkelberg? You ever lived in a redlined or underfunded community?
Does sleeping under a bridge count?
I mean, homeless is definitely one of those communities.
I've done my fair share of sleeping outside, unfortunately. Yeah, I'm gonna leave it at that.
Okay. Thank you very much. Demon King, have you ever lived in a redlined or underfunded community?
Yes, I have. Growing up in Overtown in Miami, Florida, a lot of people would say that it was middle class, but I would say it was lower middle class to almost poverty line because you'd see homeless people pushing carts around, um, food banks, things like that. So yeah, I would say I did.
Okay. Thank you very much. Make today great. Have you ever lived in a redlined or underfunded community?
Yes, my where I lived, it was very underfunded. Like there was I'd say like viewings every day, like cops getting called. Like right in front of my house was like a swan of cops because someone got caught doing something that was not so good.
Hmm.
So I would say from my point of view, yes, very.
Okay. Thank you very much. Hey, Wolf, have you ever lived in a redlined or underfunded community?
Hmm?
Have you ever lived in a redlined or underfunded, a gentrified community?
I don't know what you're talking about. I'm dumb.
Um, Here, let me go ahead and just read this off to you really quick. Um, So, an underfunded community would be any like black, brown, indigenous neighborhoods or immigrant neighborhoods that were deemed risky environments, which cuts them off from loans and city assistance, insurance,
Mm,
homeownership, stuff like that.
no.
No. Okay. Thank you very much, Ari. Have you ever lived in a redlined or underfunded community?
I don't know what that is either. I'm sorry.
No, you're okay. You're okay. This is a
Um,
place of.
Wait.
Sorry, did you ask me? I thought I heard you say my name.
I did. Yes.
Um, no, not based on that definition. I mean, I've lived in poor housing, I've been homeless, but I've never lived in the neighborhoods that you would describe as
Okay.
redlined or underfunded.
Okay. Thank you very much. um, my next question. What do you think it would take to make housing a human right? And we'll start off with Ari on this one.
So that's a big one. What would it take to make housing a human right?
Yes.
Oh boy, that's a complex, nuanced one because there are a lot of ideas, but when we think of like implementation and what kind of power that would take, idealistically, um, housing should be a basic human right. Everyone should be entitled to having a home, having a decent living condition, and access to things like utilities, electricity, heat, water, clean water. But that's not the reality for many. And we see highlights in the news. We know the big names like Flint, Michigan, but it's so much more like prevalent than we know. And like I don't have a solution because it would take pretty extreme like policy, right? But we don't have people in those positions or necessarily seeking those positions that have the intention or desire to do that. So it's one of those really unfortunate ones. Like, what do we do? I mean, we have problems, right, with like short-term vacation housing. Companies like Airbnb buying up rental properties. We have corporations seizing and buying up properties like homes, right? And how do we combat that? Can we reverse that at some point? I don't really know because the crisis at this point in time is so severe that I do not know. I do not know the pathway to that. A lot of people a lot of people I talk to will say we need to just build, right? Well, build and then what? What are they going to charge for those homes? What are they going to charge for rent for those homes? I don't, yeah, I'm sorry. I want to have solutions to this one. But that's such a huge crisis and there's just a lot to unpack there. So Sorry, that's it.
Oh, sorry, I forgot I was on mute. My bad. Thank you very much, Ari. Wolf, what do you think it would take to make housing a human right?
Uh, I don't know. I don't like being put on the spotlight, so I'm probably gonna drop.
Okay.
Yeah,
No worries.
right now I'm getting anxiety because I feel like I'm being pressured to talk about this kind of stuff.
Oh no. There's no need. You don't have to be if you don't.
wait, I do
Yes.
know you, Sludge, correct?
Yes, you do.
Yes, because you're the one. Yeah, I remember.
Yeah.
Yeah, sorry I haven't, been in the, for a bit.
No, you're good. You're good. You don't have to apologize for nothing. You owe me no apologies.
I still appreciate what y'all are doing for me.
Yeah, of course. We're still
Alright.
connected in the chats, so feel free to hit me up, okay?
Yes. Alright.
Moon, what do you think it would take to make housing a human right?
What do you think? Wait, repeat the question again. It all mushed together.
What do you think it would take to make housing a human right?
Simply just provided. Like, get rid of a certain currency that prevents affordability. For an example, get rid of the dollar. Start bartering, and start enabling people to build on land that is not being charged for currency. Like, there's so much behind that needs to be changed in a profit-filled economy that we have here, which is fashion is. And there you go.
Thank you very much, bud. Make it great. What do you think it would take to make housing a human right?
I'll say us going up to our mayor, because from where I'm at, our mayor is of diverse descent. He is light skinned and I think Mexican, and he always provides like neighborhoods with underfund like overfund like funding our neighborhoods and actually like coming and reaching us because like I feel like not many mayors go out of their way to talk to their what would we be called? Sorry.
Constituents?
Constituents and like actually communicate with us. So I say like us going to our mayors or us going to us going to our local like protest or just a local something. If we don't see housing where it needs to be, we certainly would like to protest.
Okay. Thank you very much. Demon King, what do you think it would take to make housing a human right?
Oh, a lot of really great people banding together and making housing affordable and realize that not everyone can afford a 4-bedroom house that people are going to try to charge $1,500 for. Get into communities that are willing to help people work on rundown, decrepit houses that need to be rebuilt. Come together as a community and rebuild these houses for families that need them, and just work together as a team to make housing a real thing for people that need housing, because everybody's got to have a place to stay.
Absolutely. Thank you very much, bud. Dinkelberg, what do you think it would take to make housing a human right?
So I feel like this is something that has to be a societal mindset change. And in order for us to do that, it would take quite a bit of money. B, somebody in power who gives enough fucks to want to do that. And then C, for enough time to pass for it to become like a societal norm that everybody just deserves housing. Because I feel like it's just not everybody, but there's enough people that don't think everybody deserves a place to live. Somebody, they think they're lazy, you need to pull your bootstraps up and work harder or whatever the case may be. But I think it's a mindset thing.
Okay. Thank you very much. And Loon, what do you think it would take to make housing a human right?
A complete upheaval of the current systems and government we have in place. It's not working.
I like the way you think. So, I want to talk about race in media. From noble savages to violent thugs, media shaped narratives that lock people of color into one-dimensional roles. Entertainment isn't innocent; it has become indoctrination for the masses. 90% of the U.S. media is controlled by 6 companies. Bagdikian, Ben H. Bagdikian wrote in the New Media Monopoly 2004. Ownership decides whose stories matter, whose tragedies are mourned, and whose victories are celebrated. Increasingly, marginalized creators are telling their own stories, challenging their tired tropes, and fighting the narrative for narrative sovereignty. But access to distribution remains a seriously fierce battleground for all of that information. So, what are some early stereotypes you remember seeing in TV, movies, or books? And we'll start with Loon on this one.
Growing up, there was a lot of like cartoons that had not so much racial implications. I kind of didn't really get into anything like that, but more so like sexism that was kind of rampant and kind of crazy to look back on. You know, like we all see those little jokes and stuff that we look back on our old cartoons and realize they were meant for the adults and that's why we didn't get it. And a lot of them are very problematic, and it's a very poor message to be sending to children.
Thank you very much. Dinkelberg, what are some stereotypes you remember seeing on TV, movies, or books?
Mostly sexism against women specifically.
Okay. Thank you very much. Demon King, what are some earlier stereotypes you remember seeing in TV, movies, or books?
Oh man, God, growing up in the 70s, you can imagine, and it it's a lot of craziness going on because, nowadays movies that I watched back in the 70s couldn't get made today. Like Blazing Saddles. That movie would be just poo-pooed right from the start because it was so racial and so stereotypical and just out there. Even Mel Gibson, I mean, his Spaceballs movie was over the top. So a lot of the racial stereotypes back in those days and watching those movies was just like, wow, they're actually doing this stuff about black people, and it was wild because you didn't think about it at the time because it was supposed to be funny, and the way Mel Brooks portrayed it was literally some of the funniest crap you'd see on TV. But at the time, you're just like, that's not they can't be. It's a parody movie, so you were thinking that, okay, well, it's just a parody of the stereotype. But when you sit back and watch it now as an older person, you're just like, damn, they were pretty racial in those movies. So a lot of the stuff that went back on back in the day, they definitely couldn't get away with it now because it's just not content made for TV. So yeah, it was crazy.
Okay. Thank you very much. Make it great. What are some early stereotypes you remember seeing on TV, movies, or books?
Um, Looney Tunes and Tom and Jerry. I was watching a streamer who was watching hidden racisms with cartoons and lullabies. Like um, I forgot which one it was, but I'll watch the video and I'll get back to y'all on that. But for Looney Tunes have blackface, stereotypical Asians. Also, I had deeply in roots with the ends, how the German during German era, uh, very deep roots, portraying them as insignificant or some certain groups cowardly.
Okay. Thank you very much. And Moon, what are some early stereotypes you remember seeing in TV, movies, or books?
Well, I distinctly remember in Looney Tunes, such as Bugs Bunny, and you remember the skit with the Native Americans, right?
Yeah.
That's a prime example. Also, Tom and Jerry, another stereotypical thing was when Tom and Jerry were fighting over this attention of a female cat. Jerry rolls up a subliminal message of a particular thing I can't say on lives without diminishing your views, which indicated to people that schmocking is the cool thing to do. It's the smooth thing to do, right? And there's subliminal messaging in everything we watch, right? So that's why it's very careful to guard yourself on what you're watching and what you would choose to receive or surround yourself with.
Absolutely. Thank you very much for bringing up that point, bud. So let's see, Loon, what stories do you wish were told more often?
What do you mean?
What's stories like word of mouth or fairy tales or whatever? What stories do you wish were told more often?
I mean, okay, maybe not like kid stories, but the Brothers Grimm fairy tales all had like pretty decent lessons in them for the most part. And I mean, okay, they were kind of messed up, to be fair, but I liked them.
Okay, no shame in that. Dinkelberg, how do you think media shapes our perception of race without us even realizing it?
I feel like that's kind of hard to answer because once you realize it, you can't unrealize it. But like prior to that, like realization moment, I would say open sexualization of black women specifically is a good example.
That's a good example. It's a very good example. Thank you very much. Demon King, how do you think media shapes our perception of race without us even realizing it?
The blackface, the things that they try to push into the narratives of the cartoons, the movies, things of that nature that just, try to make people look a certain way or want you to dress a certain way or, just things of that nature.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you very much, bud. Make today great. What are some stories you wish? What are some stories you wish were told more often?
I'll say like the guy who took down a lot of slave capturers. I forgot his name, but he used to go, and I don't feel like he's talked about him enough because he was literally like the John Wick of like like of our black during that
Are you talking
time.
about the guy? Are you talking about the guy that the Lone Ranger was modeled off of?
Yes, I think so.
Okay. I don't remember his
And
name either, but I'll pull that up.
yes, yes. Can you pull it up for me so I can know his name real quick?
Yeah. Do. Oh lordy, come on. Bass Reeves.
And I'll also say that Disney did have a very huge impact on racial stereotypes back in the day, and still do to some point.
So it says here the real Lone Ranger is believed to be inspired by Bass Reeves, a former slave who became a deputy U.S. Marshal and legendary lawman in the Wild West. Born into slavery in Crawford County, Arkansas, and escaped during the Civil War to live in Indian Territory, where he later became known for his skills as a tracker and a marksman. Made up to 4,000 arrests in his lifetime. Fantastic.
Thank you.
Yeah, no problem, buddy. Who am I on now? Dinkelberg. Wait, did I already ask you? Okay, I think it might be Moon's turn. Moon, how do you think media shapes our perception of race without us even realizing it?
It goes with a lot of people. Let's say comedy, for an example, right? They use these terminologies such as this is how white folks talk, this is how black folks talk, this is how Spanish people talk, and they use their lingo or accents to defy that particular race or perspective. And then also another way is through culture. People like living styles and stuff. They make similarities to that to create comedy. So that's a form of social media because people post memes about that, right? And it comes from that perspective.
Thank you very much. So I want to talk about the legal system. So vagrancy laws have criminalized blackness post-slavery, as reported by Douglas Blackman in Slavery by Another Name in 2008. Stop and frisk policies disproportionately targeted Black and Latinx youth. Justice has always worn a double face. And during the period of time in the 80s where we understand what I would be saying when I mean cracked jewelry, right? The sentencing from those disparities exposed how racial coding infiltrates even supposed neutral law. Mass incarceration exploded at that point, and that was entirely by design. Private prisons make billions of dollars, as reported by Sawyer, Wendy, and Wagner in Mass Incarceration: The Whole Pie, 2022. More inmates means more contracts, more profit, and more political donations to keep the system spinning. So how does learning about the racist foundations of U.S. law affect your view of justice? And we'll start off with Loon on this one.
It's definitely made me realize that justice is not synonymous with the law in any way, shape, or form. At least not in the way we have it structured.
Okay. Thank you very much. Dinkelberg, have you ever seen or experienced selective enforcement?
Not personally, like in my real life, no.
Okay. What about you, Demon King? You ever seen or experienced selective enforcement?
I have, coming across a lot of officers and a lot of African American people that I hang out with, and watch them how they get treated to how I get treated or how my actual YT friends get treated. It's a lot of stuff going on. You don't realize it until you see it firsthand because when you're growing up and your friends are talking to you about it, you're just like, oh man, you're just bullshit. And you don't get treated like that by cops. And then when you actually see it happen and you're just like, oh, okay, well, maybe I was blind to the fact that y'all are getting railed by these people and they're not doing anything to me because I look like I am. And it's crazy that they would do that to people.
Yeah, absolutely it is. Thank you very much for that, man. Make today great. Have you ever seen or experienced selective enforcement?
What is that?
Selective enforcement would be a particular targeting of Black, brown, and indigenous individuals.
Yes, I'll say I was in at tennis practice where we have to wait in this little lunch cafeteria, and the cop literally abused his power. He picked up this black girl and slammed her on the ground, and there was no repercussions for his behavior. It was the most outrageous, most craziest thing. I feel like he could have like at least handcuffed her or tased her, but not slam her on the ground. She was not physical. She wasn't even doing anything. But I turn around and I just see the cop slam her on the ground. I would say that's what I've seen.
Okay. Thank you much for sharing your experience. Moon Clan. Have you ever seen or experienced selective enforcement?
Yes, in a different perspective, I see it with the rich versus the poor. The rich are let off with a slap on the hand as the poor is prosecuted for simply trying to survive. And one of your famous terms is everybody's one paycheck away from being put out on the streets, being homeless, right? That's one of your famous terms. So that can happen to anybody, you know? You're just simply trying to survive. Who are you to determine that I'm worthy of different treatment based on my wealth or based on my circumstances that I may or may not have been given?
Absolutely. Thank you very much for bringing that forward. So, here in this episode, in this part of the episode, we've cracked open the machinery of race across policing, healthcare, housing, media, and law. We saw that the gears still grind away no matter what, not because they're malfunctioning, but because they're operating exactly as they were intended. But when we understand the machine, we're no longer just passengers aboard the ride. We can be the wrench in the gears that brings this stuff to a grinding halt. So now we've seen it. The machinery of race thrives on invisibility. It survives because it's mistaken for normal. Every biased loan denial, every brutal traffic stop, every racist cartoon character, every dismissed patient, every tough on crime bill signed into law, each one a tiny cog in the machine. The machine depends on us believing that we're powerless, but we're not. We're thinkers. We're builders. We're breakers. We are dreamers. And if we refuse to keep the gears turning, if we refuse to oil the machinery with our silence, then even the mightiest systems can grind to a halt. I want to thank everybody for contributing to this portion of the episode. We're going to take a short 2-minute break so I can pull up the second part of the episode, which is the three-headed beast. Feel free to discuss amongst yourselves. I'll be back in just a moment after I get everything set up.
Thanks for having me, guys.
Yeah, no
Yeah,
worries,
man, we
man.
enjoy having you in here, man.
Yeah, no worries, man. You're always welcome in here. We are an open group of activists who accept everybody, no matter what their circumstances are, whether you're rich or poor, middle class. We tend to treat everybody on an equilibrium with basic human decency.
I'll say for me, as like an 18-year-old, I'm learning so much, like so many injustices and so many characteristics of life. And I just want to say thank you for that, opening my eyes to the real world.
The real world is brutal, but we can always give basic human decency
And we
too.
can always make it better.
Exactly. And it all starts with a simple, hi, how's your day going? Or a simple smile to a stranger on the street.
That's why I changed my. That's why I made my account called Make Today Great, because you can make anybody's day greater with the most smallest, most significant thing. Because you will never know how small an action could be, how big the outcome could be.
It's like a drop of water, right? Once it hits a flat surface, it creates a ripple effect. And that's how a smile is, in my opinion.
And it's not even just a smile, really. It's more of a, you can smile on me. Hey, how was your day, man? Let me sit down and talk to you. I see you're kind of down. Let's chat. Let's get some coffee and talk. That's a good starting point too.
I'll say for me, my personal experience with that thing, I worked in customer service, and I was a very, very outgoing person and very introverted. So I had a customer who was really down that day, and I gave her a hug. Because most customers I give a hug, because sometimes all they need is a hug. And this old lady I gave a hug to cried in my arms when she was leaving, because no one ever gave her like, no one ever told her that. It's like it breaks my heart because sometimes some people don't know that they matter, and some people think they don't matter.
Yeah, when people intend to let their fears and doubts take over their mind, it's hard to get out of that.
And I completely understand that. I always say I'm always open to understanding people's problems and seeing problems from different points of view.
Oh, me too. I've been very open to dialogue because everything could be solved through diplomatics, in my opinion. The only time when you need to take an extreme approach is when the person has an extreme mindset, and therefore it takes more life experience for them to solve it, in my opinion.
Yeah, no, I want to friend you. I want to friend you. Who's talking right now?
That would be Moon Clan.
Moon Clan? Okay, I got to follow Moon Clan.
So hey everybody, just per the numbers of the algorithm at the moment, I think it's going to be a good idea for us to move over to the secondary account. So if you don't mind following me over to Sludge Knuckle Reckoning, we'll continue the episode there.
Okay, buddy, just send me that invite. I have hundreds of.
I'll throw it into the basic human decency chat.
Thank you, my
Will
friend.
do, man.
All right.